This is our third video on solving equations using the quadratic formula. Make sure you're comfortable with using the quadratic formula from the previous two videos. Now, let's have a look at this one here. We've got x squared minus 8x equals 9, and we need to solve this equation. Remember, the quadratic formula tells us that if we've got ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then we've got our solutions as described by the formula. Now, here we do not have the quadratic equation in the right form. What we want is a 0 on one side of the equation. So I need to first subtract 9 from the right-hand side and therefore 9 from the left-hand side to keep the equation balanced. Doing this, I get x squared minus 8x minus 9 equals 0. And now I can use the quadratic formula. What I've already got here is 1x squared minus 8x minus 9. So a, the coefficient of x squared there is 1. B, the coefficient of x is negative 8. And c, the constant term, is negative 9. Substituting all of that into the quadratic formula, I get x equals negative 8, which is positive 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 8 all squared, which is 64. Remember, a negative 8 times negative 8 is positive 64. So I've got my b squared. I then need to subtract 4ac. So that's minus 4 times 1 times negative 9. So I'm subtracting all of that, and that's being square rooted. And we've got all of that over 2a. So that's 2 times 1, which is just 2. Let's focus on this inside the square root. We've got 4 times 1 times negative 9 there, and that gives us negative 36. So we've got 64 minus negative 36, and that gives us 100. So what we've really got here is 8 plus or minus the square root of 100, all over 2. Now, the square root of 100 is simply 10. So we have 8 plus or minus 10 over 2. This gives us two solutions. First of all, we have 8 plus 10 over 2. So 8 plus 10 is 18. Dividing that by 2 gives us 9. And the second solution is what we get when we do 8 minus 10 over 2. Well, 8 minus 10 is negative 2. And dividing that by 2 gives us negative 1. So x equals 9, x equals negative 1. Those are our two solutions to the original equation. Let's have a look at the second example. Again, we've got a quadratic equation, but we don't have a 0 on one side. So what I'm going to do is subtract x squared, subtract 4x, and subtract 13 from each side. That gives me x squared plus 3x minus 3 equals 0. Now this gives us a equals 1. Remember, that's the coefficient of x squared. We've got 1x squared here. B is the coefficient of x, which is positive 3. And c is the constant term, which is negative 3. Substituting a, b, and c into the quadratic formula, we get x equals negative b, so that's negative 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's 3 squared, which is 9, minus 4ac, so that's 4 times 1 times negative 3, all over 2a. A is 1, so 2a is just 2. Focusing on the square root, the bit in brackets is 4 times 1 times negative 3, which is negative 12. So we have the square root of 9 minus negative 12, and that gives us the square root of 21. So x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 21 all over 2. So one of our solutions is negative 3 plus root 21 over 2. And the other solution is negative 3 minus root 21 over 2. Those are exact solutions, but if we need to, we can give them as decimals rounded to a certain number of decimal places. Here are the final two examples. Now, these are not quite in the form that we want. We want them in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. But we can get these into the form that we want quite easily. In the first case, I just need to multiply both sides of the equation by x. If I do that, I get x squared plus 4x plus 3 on the left-hand side, and I get 0 times x on the right-hand side, which is still 0. Looking at this other equation, we can get it into the correct form by multiplying each side by x squared. That gives me x squared minus 25 on the left and 0 on the right. Now, both of these can be solved by factorising quite easily. However, for practice, try solving these equations by using the quadratic formula. Pause the video and have a go. Here's what you should have got. The solutions to the first equation are -1 and 3, whilst the solutions to the second equation are 5 and -5.